All right.
Now, let The Rock show you all and everyone around the world. I'm going to show you something right now that is very important. It's very cool. And I think you're going to like it a lot. But regardless whether you like it or you don't like it, you love it, you hate it, one thing for damn sure, you are gonna respect it. Take a look. When you look at this incredible family tree, and I want you to take a look at the very top of the tree. At the top of that tree, The Rock's grandfather and Roman's grandfather made a blood oath, and that our family in Samoan said, Ainga, Ainga forever. And if you can't see that,
All right.
if you can't see the fact,
I guess I'm not going to be able to have the sound there.
this is proof that there is
It's too much.
only one dominant.
As soon as this ends, we're going to dive right in.
Family in professional wrestling. If you can't see that, and if you think that The Rock and Roman Reigns isn't the biggest main event in the history of WrestleMania, then save your booze, save your booze. Then, if that's what you think, then in simple Rock speak, it doesn't matter what you think. Save your booze, save your booze. It doesn't matter what you think. WrestleMania 40, Philadelphia. The Rock and Roman Reigns, the Universal Champion versus the People's Champion. Whether you like it or you don't like it, the People's Champion in the biggest main event in the history of professional wrestling, bound by blood.
in the history of professional wrestling.
Hold on. Hold on. This right here is bull.
This is interesting.
Roman, you're out here calling the shots, dictating WrestleMania 40. And as the tribal chief, as the undisputed champion, you have a lot of stroke. But it is not your right, it is not your distinction to determine the main event. It is mine. I won the Royal Rumble. And Rock, we had a wonderful conversation. I had many conversations. I have made my decision. At WrestleMania 40, in the main event, I choose you, Roman Reigns.
You must be crazy. You must be stupid or something, huh? This is a done deal. You're old news. Go over there with the number twos. The number 2 table will have you now. Loser bracket. Right there in the dummy in green. Just go. You're embarrassing yourself now. Last year was your year. That was your moment. You were only a chapter in my book. Nobody cares about your story. Nobody cares about you finishing the story. You're embarrassing your entire family now. You just understand this. You're irrelevant, just like your dad.
Rock looking so heelish right now.
Here you are. Talking about family. Is that what the bloodline is? Let me ask you a question. How's Jay? It's not a family. You're a meal ticket, and they are nothing but lackeys, but yes men. They're goons. And what is this match all about right here? Who sits at the head of the table? What does it matter when neither of you have been doing any of the cooking for 2 years? Earlier, we had that family tree up there, and you've invoked my father before, so let me go ahead and do the same. If your grandfather was here, if the high chief, his grandfather, was here, they'd be ashamed of you.
His grandfather was here. They'd be ashamed.
Uh-oh.
Let me make something perfectly clear to you.
Is this happening?
When you talk about his family, you're talking about my family. When you're talking about his ancestors, you're talking about my ancestors. And when you're talking about his blood, you're talking about my blood. So now we have a problem. No, you don't. Yes, we do. I don't give a shit if you're on the board. You don't get to do whatever you want. Whatever. Open your mouth about our family again. I've done it every single time.
Ladies and gentlemen, just a bombshell moment here tonight. Cody Rhodes invoking what he earned at the Royal Rumble to choose Roman Reigns to meet Reigns at WrestleMania for the Undisputed Championship. I want to start first with the master of the pipe bomb. What did you think about this moment?
Man, it's like Valentine's Day. I choose you. I choose you. Listen, Cody's way too diplomatic. Somebody slaps you, you got to bust him right back in the mouth. That's what I would have done. I want to see Cody punch Rock right in the face. Who wants to see Cody punch Rock in the face? Yeah. I feel like it needs to happen. Listen, like I said, Rock did not throw me over the top rope in the Royal Rumble. Cody won the Royal Rumble. It is his shot to call. That's where I stand.
Big E, your thoughts?
Man, that's explosive, man. That's I don't know what we're building. Are we looking at it? It looks like a tag. I love that. I don't know where this is going. I have no idea. And we have, 2 months until WrestleMania. So my eyes will be peeled. It's a lot to digest right there.
And so many questions. I mean, what happens to the World Heavyweight Championship and Seth Rollins? Pat, you've been a big supporter of The Rock throughout all this. Your thoughts on what happened tonight?
Well, The Rock just went to bat for his entire family, his entire bloodline, got offended.
All right.
Cody right in the mouth.
Let's instantly react, shall we? Let's talk about what we just saw. Welcome to the Friday something of Cheap Heat. Getting it done a little bit early because we just wrapped up the moment in Las Vegas, the WrestleMania 40 kickoff show, and I got to tell you, I'm kind of impressed and flabbergasted right now. I mean, I don't really know what to say beyond that. I am very, very surprised. Now, shout out to the people who are already here in the chat, and I'm going to get to your guys' thoughts in a second because I think there's already an important one to be made by one of our guys in the chat, which is someone said Seth looks like a jobber. I will say that will be the piece that you might come out of this thing being concerned about. Yeah, but can we save that for a moment? Let's table where Seth Rollins lands and how he looks in this moment, and look at what just happened with regard to The Rock and Cody and Roman, because I can only speak for me in saying, when we came on the podcast this week and sort of speculated on the idea of The Rock turning heel on Cody, and of course I said him and Roman get together and beat down Cody Rhodes. That did not happen. All right. However, we got pretty damn close. Did we not? That ended up being pretty damn close to an absolute turn by The Rock. No, full-blown heel turn by The Rock. We all agree with that? He started it today with his appearance on Pat McAfee when he did the thing about the Cody crybabies, but that wasn't the all the way moment, right? Because you're not sure where that would end up landing. But the way that this show played out, that was a full-on heel turn by The Rock. And now the only way for him to not be that at WrestleMania would be if something were to happen in Perth that would then turn him against Roman, right? So I guess there's still a world. Let's play this out. They're clearly going to do something in Perth now to get us to the next step. All right. Now, I don't think there was ever an idea of The Rock really being involved in Perth. However, now The Rock has to be involved. And I think that would, and again, I'm shooting from the hip here. I would think that would all be a reaction to what we've seen over the last week. And as a result of how the last week has played out, now they've had to pivot. And I think what you love about this era and what you love about Triple H is the willingness to pivot versus being stubborn and forcing something. Find a creative way to pivot. Listen, I have no idea what the internet's saying. Just want to be clear. I have no clue whether people are hating what happened tonight or loving what happened tonight. As you can hear from the giddiness in my voice, I love what happened tonight. I love what happened. I really was fantasizing when I said, oh my gosh, can you imagine if The Rock would turn and be lined up with Roman Reigns? But The Rock was lined up with Roman Reigns. They legitimately were family tonight. And to me, that is fascinating. That to me is a shock. That was, as much as I fantasized about it, I did not believe we'd actually get that. And we got Rock and Roman. Shout out to this gentleman right here, G. Garcia. You called it. Rock and Roman side by side. That is, in fact, what we got. Rock and Roman side by side. Wow. Andrew says, Cody versus Roman at Mania with Rock as an enforcer. Listen, here's the deal. We now know that The Rock has this longer-term relationship with WWE again, right? That is clear. We all know that. The Rock is going to be around in some capacity. So, is it possible that you can now stretch out the Rock piece of this longer and you do end up going Cody Roman WrestleMania with the Rock involved in some other way? Crazy idea. This crossed my mind just now. You're going to think it's insane. But one thing that was clear is that Seth did end up, as one of the initial messages said. Here we go. This whole thing makes Seth look like a jobber, Vinod said. I see what you're saying. I mean, Roman just dissed him. Like that. Did that not feel legitimately a little bit nasty between those two at the beginning? Like you sense something actually going on between those two. But also, last time I checked, we have 4 guys standing there in 2 main events. Is there a world in which those are the 4 guys in the 2 main events, but maybe it's some version of it we didn't expect? What if we see a tag match in Perth? Cody and Seth versus Rock and Roman. And then at Mania, we get Rock versus Cody and Seth. Roman versus Cody and Rock versus Seth. It's not what anyone expected, but at this moment, I think the WWE Universe would be more hyped off of Rock Seth than they would be off of Rock Roman. By the way, if you're just hanging out, you've never been here before to the new YouTube channel, please make sure you hit subscribe to Rosenberg Wrestling. Just started this account a few weeks ago to house the wrestling content. So make sure you give us a little sub there. And if you're listening on the Cheap Heat podcast, go over and subscribe to Rosenberg Wrestling. If you're watching on YouTube, go subscribe to Cheap Heat, the podcast. Now, apparently there was just another backstage of Triple H and Bloodline that I did not see because I'm already here. Might have to go back right now and share and view this with you guys. Oh yeah, here we go. Something just happened. Let's watch this, shall we? All right, I'm going to pull this up.
It's difficult, right? Everybody sort of goes into business for themselves.
Hard to say what just went on right there. A lot of tension right now. A lot of egos. A lot of fix it, fix it. Have them talk shit about our family again, and that's what happens. It's out of line, you know it. It's not out of line. How much? Have them talk shit. If you don't fix it, we will. Have them family again. Lucky are too. So how do you fix this?
You know what, man? I'll tell you what. Wrestling fans are hard to please. Okay, wrestling fans are very hard to please. I saw. I mean, Andrew Goldstein, my dear friend, is in here. Oh my god, you're killing me, dude. Andrew Goldstein is in our chat right now, just killing everything that happened. He said, made Roman look weak, a bystander. Seth standing there with his in his hand. Rock doesn't cut a promo at all. Rock basically did a PowerPoint presentation. What a mess. And Zach Linder, our other friend, appropriately responds, in my opinion. Dude, The Rock turned heel for the first time in 21 years, and you hated it? I mean, I'm sorry, dude. Andrew Goldstein, anybody out there who's nitpicking? Okay, did Seth come off great? No, he didn't. I thought The Rock actually finally seemed authentic. I thought The Rock went from being a catchphrase machine who shows up and just kind of curses everybody out and then laughs and leaves to a guy with character, to a guy who I believe he cares. The Rock and Roman have an alliance and allegiance now that makes sense. Now, you could say, Cody didn't say enough about their family. I'll argue that. Maybe Cody should have went further in his sort of breaking down of the bloodline to offend The Rock and Roman more. Like, now we're nitpicking a lot, considering last week the world was standing on its head because everyone was so angry that The Rock and Roman would main event WrestleMania. It appears now, because I just have to believe not all of this was planned. I mean, I have to imagine when Cody won the Royal Rumble, the plan was in that moment, Cody and Roman to be involved in some way. But I also don't think that last minute The Rock was like, hey guys, I'm going to be there on Friday. And they switched everything either. Right? I think it's a mix here. But overall, the point is this. People were going absolutely bat you know what last Friday because we're getting Rock Roman. Oh my God. The WWE of old would never pivot, right? They would force it down your throat. You go back 10 years, right? You think about Roman Reigns winning the Royal Rumble in Philadelphia. You think about how long it took for Daniel Bryan, right? And the Yes Movement kind of being forced on WWE. Even Kofi Mania happened because of just, some unfortunate events took place. Kofi ends up in a spot, and then he gets his chance. So now we're in an era where the crowd is heard, and there's clearly a pivot. And we get The Rock aligning with Roman instead and turning on Cody, and you're going to complain to me because Seth didn't look strong enough? I mean, dude, everyone, put down your imaginary pencil and relax. That was pretty cool. Now, Just Jeff says, hey, you've been nitpicking too. I really haven't been nitpicking. I'm not saying I never nitpicking. I never nitpick. Of course, we all do. We're wrestling fans, right? But at the same time, last week when everyone went crazy, I said, let's just chill out a second. I love that people were angry. I love that people made noise. Hell, they may have impacted what's going to happen here. But people going absolutely crazy to me was crazy. I don't do that for the entertainment that I love, even if I'm super passionate about it. I have a tendency to trust the people who create it because I love it for a reason and see where it goes a little bit. I'm not talking about, listen, I'm not SGG. God bless my co-host, that guy, Greg. And if you're watching on YouTube, go subscribe to the Cheap Heat podcast. And if you're here watching live, hit subscribe, please, for Rosenberg Wrestling, new channel I just launched for all my wrestling content. Subscribe to both. But if you, SGG, we have our differences at times because months will pass and he can be like, hey, let the story play out. I do believe in fans having the right to judge the product, right? It's their choice. It's our form of entertainment. We choose what we like, what we don't like. I'm just saying it hasn't been a week since SmackDown aired, and people were losing their mind. It had been less than a day or two when people lost their mind, 2 months away from WrestleMania. That was just my point there. Are you part of the work, Rosenberg, seeing that you work for WWE? No. I wish that I was. I wish that I was out there and part of it today, but I'm not. So today you're not getting WWE Peter. You're getting WWE fan Peter who watched it from home, eating a salad from Chopped after a long day of radio and just got to enjoy that with all of you. Also, I want to give a big congratulations to my buddy Sam Roberts, who just welcomed his third baby into the world today. Congratulations to Sam and Jess and the whole Roberts family on number 3. Amazing. All right, let's go back to more of these comments here. Jeffrey says, I love a Rocky heel turn. Yeah, dude. Facts. Joel says, that was so cool, man. Agree. Heel Rocky, the GOAT. Let's see. Ed says, Cody, Roman, and Seth and Punk were original plans. I think they were always going to set up for Roman Rock at 41. But they're now pivoting on how they get around to it with the Rock. You may be right. You may be right. Cody was going to win the Rumble. Cody was going to get Roman. Punk was going to get Seth, a story that they've been telling since the second Punk walked back in at Survivor Series. And we were all set. 2 massive main events. And maybe The Rock would have shown up and had some involvement, but not to this degree. Instead, they pivot. They bring back The Rock, either with the anticipation of it going this way or without it. And they thought they were really just going to run Rock and Roman. But no matter what, now we are in just happy time. This is happy time, guys. This is literally what you wait for. This is what you dream of as a wrestling fan. For things to just be happening. That's what I'm saying. So I loved that. I thought it was as fun as it could have been executed. I suppose it could have been cleaner in some ways. I'm sure I could sit here and Monday morning quarterback it to death and find all the ways that it could have been different. But for me, I'm pretty happy. Poppy Squeeze says, I'm so confused at what just happened. Well, why are you confused? Ed says, amen. I love knowing nothing. This is why we love wrestling and think it's great. That's right. This is the peak of wrestling since the 90s, says Skronk Jappelson. I love Skronk. Business didn't pick up till Cody interrupted, says Will. Yes. You want to nitpick? You want to nitpick? They tried to go realistic with Cody coming out with no music, and the crowd couldn't see it, so no one reacted. They should have hit Cody's music, unless that was just an accident. And you know what the beauty of this whole friggin' thing is? We have SmackDown tomorrow. So we turn around and we're going to get stuff tomorrow. You think we get a tag match elimination chamber now? I do. I do. That's exactly what I think is going to happen. I think we will get some sort of tag match chamber elimination. My friend Brian Mann, who might jump on with us, said, here's what I see. Night 1 is announced Cody Roman. Night 2, Roman Rock. And then the Rock, they'd agree to be on the same page. at the end of the Cody match to ensure that the title stays in the family. Meanwhile, Cody is telling Roman to have the match straight up. At Mania, Roman tells Rock not to interfere with Cody. As a result, Cody beats Roman. Dwayne comes down livid that the title's no longer in the family. He attacks Roman, but Cody makes the save. Roman and Cody share a handshake. Reigns turns babyface before the Rock match. That could be fun. That could be fun. Here's what I guess excites me the most. Just the fact that The Rock is a character right now, and we're debating what his character is and what it could be. To me, that is extremely exciting. That to me, like I just felt like, are we going to get a Rock here that comes out and calls out Roman Reigns, but really doesn't have anything to him, any oomph? I'm just calling you because what really is yes, there's an obvious story you can do. You're not the head of the table. You're not the one who should be the voice of our family. I should be that. Of course, that's sitting there for you. But at this point, I don't think that's better than a Cody Roman story. Now we get a Rock story with Roman that can have like life and time potentially. Like them together through WrestleMania. I mean, I fantasy booked this on Cheap Heat earlier this week. I didn't think it was ever possible. Roman Reigns music hitting and Rock and Roman coming out together in the bloodline? Roman, The Rock, Solo, Jimmy, Paul E, all together? Andrew says Roman's schedule only be getting lighter. Let him be a babyface. Yeah, it's so true, right? Especially if he's not going to be around that much. Will says, in kayfabe terms, I feel bad for Solo. Dude might be assistant to the regional manager now. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Tough spot. Exactly. Rock the main. This is from Ludi. Exactly. Rock the main character, not actor coming to visit. Vince on McAfee today got me hoping your prediction would come true. I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. Oh, look, SGG is here. Wait. Wait. There it is.
There it is.
Wait, I don't hear you though, SGG. Is your mic enabled?
Yeah, it should be enabled.
Check your audio setting.
Hold on, we're gonna do this. I'm just gonna go repug.
We don't hear you, but we see your Rock poster in the background. Your Rock Austin. Still don't hear you. And also when you try, maybe leave and come back, and also turn your phone sideways when you come back.
All right.
But SGG, I know, was happy about this as well. He, like me, is here for it. I'm just so surprised. I got to tell you, and I know not all of you listening or watching this know who my friend Andrew is. But Andrew's a very knowledgeable wrestling fan. I just can't believe he's finding disappointment here. I really am. Roman looked weak. Seth looked unimportant. Rock was a robot, and Cody didn't even get music and entrance. Rock was almost pitching the match to the fans. Yeah, I think there was a little bit of that because guess what? We're in a really unprecedented time. I mean, this was a unique situation. Now, I agree. Cody's music should have hit. But, oh my gosh, that's gonna be what I come away talking about? Is that Cody's music didn't hit? Patrick says, "Give me Rock Roman versus Cody and Goldust at Elimination Chamber." Oh, Mage. This has to include Seth. Has to. What you're saying is I love it. I love where your head's at right Louise said, if you hated that, you don't really like to be entertained, to be honest. I sort of agree. Some of my friends, I do have some friends who like so want wrestling to be old school that they like it's like football fans who are like, why isn't football like the old days? And I'm like, you mean like 3 yards in a cloud of dust football? Is that really the football that you want? That's the same way I feel about wrestling fans. Sometimes you're thinking in such old school terms. Okay, it wasn't exactly what you expected. Well, let's see if SUG got his mic right. SUG?
It's
Oh,
turned
darn it, we
sideways,
still
but
don't
can you
hear
hear
you.
me?
Still don't hear you. What the hell is the matter
Oh,
with you? Are you muted? On your phone, hit the little microphone thing and change the audio to your
it's
headphone.
it's it's hit. I changed it to the
God darn
headphones.
I'll
Everything is
just call you. Goodbye.
yeah.
It's a shame, but we gotta do what we gotta do. We'll call Stack Guy Greg instead and get his thoughts. Because I know he's gonna be very excited. I'm in such a current state of shock. I'm on such a high right now because I just cannot believe that we got such development. When was the last time we had something like this? Where things really in front of our very eyes, like, turned into something. I just don't remember the last time something like that happened. That's the part that I'm so amazed by. I can't sit here and nitpick the little things that didn't go exactly as I would have liked. When you got that much that you do like? Stop. Sometimes we try too hard. SUG?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, I hear you now, buddy.
There we go.
Yeah, I'm a little miffed by the Goldsteins of the world. You've probably been on Twitter. I haven't. Are most people celebrating or complaining?
I haven't been on Twitter. This is the one time where I'm channeling my Peter Rosenberg. I'm on a high. I love it, and I'm not even going to look to bother myself with what everybody else is saying because I watched the press conference, and I am here for. Still don't know what's going to happen at WrestleMania 40 or WrestleMania XL, but I'm here for it though.
Yeah, I'm with you 1,000%. I do not understand really where someone would have room to complain. I mean, sure, if you want to nitpick, we can nitpick all day long. That's what we do as wrestling fans. But overall, I'm so
And
pleasantly
we do it the
surprised.
best. Let's be honest.
Yeah, yeah,
Listen to Chief.
that's a fact. That is a fact what you just said. But in terms of things to actually complain about in a real way, I don't know. Well, how surprised are you that when we sort of joked about the prospect of, when we sort of joked about the prospect of a Rock heel turn, I don't think at any point we thought this was realistic. I really don't.
No, I definitely didn't because he comes back, the crowd pops, he shows the goosebumps, he raises the eyebrow, and he had up until I guess a few days ago just an undeniable connection with the fans that was all love, and now he's leading into the hate.
And even from the little bit we got this morning, I didn't. It was fun. It was cool. He sort of teased all of us a little bit, but I still didn't think he would actually do it. I just didn't.
No, I didn't either. Um, and even when he was with back, like you said, when he coined the phrase "the Cody crybaby" and went in on people.
Yeah, I thought that might have been a one-off, the Cody crybaby.
I thought so too. I thought because he had to have seen the hashtags. He sees what people put in his comments. His daughter had to deactivate her social media because people can't seem to control themselves. And so he just like I thought he took it easy on all those people. And
Uh,
I wouldn't have expected anything less because he's so polished all the time. But But then when he came out with that press conference, and I knew it was going left when he said, "I'm the people's champ, whether you like it or not." And I looked at Chris and I was like, "That's not how being the people's champ works. It's like
That's
you're
not
anointed.
usually.
You can't force it on."
Now, have we even processed, by the way, with The Rock being on the board of TKO, which again, I didn't think was that big a deal when it happened, right? Like it's a business thing, it makes sense. But you realize how well now the role of corporate Rock could play?
Yeah,
I mean, that
I gotta say,
it's sitting right there for us.
it really is. And I gotta give Kaz credit for this because I was listening to the Masked Man show and he I would say he called it, even though he miscast it a little bit. But like he said that Rock being on the board was definitely something that was gonna play into this story. And he pitched it as The Rock joining forces with Cody, and Shoemaker put it together. Shoemaker got it across the finish line. Shoemaker said, like, if you're on the board, you are the heel.
Right?
Period.
It kind of has to be that way. All
Yeah.
right. Speaking of Shoemaker, I see he popped up right now. I'm going to bring him on. SUG, thanks for jumping on. I just want to get a few thoughts from you. And real quick,
Right.
What's your prediction of the next step in the story? What do you think we see in Perth?
In Perth, I don't think we see anything in terms of this story, although it looks like Seth is just hanging around. But I think a challenger is going to emerge for Seth, and I think we're going to get that tag match because it's just too perfect. The first WrestleMania, Triple H made a big deal about the first WrestleMania. The main event was a tag match. So I think we're going to get a tag match night one, and then night two, we're going to get some marquee, spectacular main event matches between Seth and Roman defending their titles.
All right, thanks, SGG. You brought up Shoemaker. I'm going to bring in Shoemaker right now. Let's see. There he is. Hold on. Do I hear you, David Shoemaker? Please say I do.
Can you hear me?
No, I'm 0 for 2 on people's audio. Is your audio connected right to the yard? Did I do something wrong? No, I don't think I did anything wrong. Oh, maybe I did. Try now.
Can you hear me now?
No.
Jeez Louise, hold on.
Let me try Brian Mann and see if it's a me problem. Brian Mann.
I can hear David.
I have to. There's some.
Thank
hold on.
goodness.
Everyone give me
I
a
can hear
moment
you
to-
too, Brian.
Hey, okay.
You
We
guys
can have a
look
show without
fantastic.
Peter.
I just want to say that. Everyone looks great. Why would
Peter,
you not?
we can hear you.
You guys know you. Well, I don't know who looks better between the two of you. Everyone looks so good. All right. So I have David Shoemaker. I have Brian Mann. I don't want to resort to calling you on the phone like I did SUG. I feel like this must be a me problem. Let's try this. How about now? You guys there?
Can you hear me now?
Oh yeah. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Brian, I hear you
We
too.
can hear each
Okay.
other.
There we go.
All right, everybody's here. I'm an idiot. All right, Shu, I'll start with you. Initial takeaways from what we just saw.
I got to preface this by saying I walked in late. I only saw the very end. So piecing some of it together.
I got to catch you up on what happened with Bianca at the beginning of the show, but we'll do that later. So I think you're going to be all right.
I'm only here to talk about Bianca.
I thought it was really, really well done. I texted you on the side that as much as I love everybody involved, they should have, and I know they're trying to go for this sports reality thing. They probably would have done well to give the panel some talking points because you don't, as chaos, yes, we want to be left with the feeling that we don't know what's going to happen next, but we're WWE fans. We're used to a very controlled version of them telling us we don't know what's going to happen next, not 5 people sitting up there or 4 people sitting up there really not knowing what the hell they just saw.
Well,
or what the story they're supposed to be telling. But that's not what's important. The only reason they were a part of the last stanza of the night was to give a break between the on-stage fight and the Triple H Rock interaction in the back.
Exactly.
And I thought that everything that happened on stage was really good, and I thought that backstage thing between The Rock and Triple H was... Man, I wrote a piece about The Rock. It's probably 8 or 10 years ago now, where I watched every Rock movie, reviewed every big Rock match. It was just like a lifetime appreciation piece up to that. And I remember going through his movies and identifying the point in time where he started to learn how to act. where you really saw it happening in his face. But if anybody out there in the world doubted that The Rock was a good actor, that second backstage with Triple H was all the proof you needed. That man is a scary, scary boss.
And you know what's crazy about that? I thought, Shu, is that he didn't even have his lines together. The acting wasn't in the words. He kind of seemed a little bit lost. He was just kind of like, get that shit together.
But that was what was so great about it.
Right, but it was in his eyes. He actually looked legitimately distraught. Like, I can't believe you allowed of all people, our family to be disrespected in WWE is like a sin of all sins, knowing the history that we have here.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so stoked, because I feel like we have a story now for The Rock that could matter. Because frankly, Brian, I'll go to you. For the last few months, when The Rock comes back, he does his little Rocky thing. He talks shit about people. He leaves. We all laugh. But I'm like, him just showing up to fight Roman with no impetus besides their lineage to me isn't necessarily that exciting. Seeing him team with Roman, that gives us a story that could last a long time.
Yeah, I mean, we know right now WWE is in a bit of a state of transition. They're trying new things. They're taking risks. And for the longest time, Dwayne Johnson was kind of his downfall, I would say, in Hollywood was his lack of taking risks. He always kind of had to be the strongest guy. He always had to be the best guy. I don't know who gave him this advice, but at some point, that's just how he thought he always needed to be portrayed on screen. But then you see him tonight, and I honestly think tonight was maybe the best Dwayne Johnson performance I've seen in like almost a decade. Like the look that he had on his face after Cody said the line about your grandfathers would be ashamed of you. It was angry, but it was also like ashamed slightly, like in himself. Cause like you could tell that he knows that a part of that is true. So like, and that's always the great thing about like the babyface heel dynamics is always like when a heel talks about your family, it was Roman saying your dad didn't matter. But when a babyface talks about a heel's family, it's like, hey, your actions are disappointing your family. And then rather than that person wanting to deal with that, they say, don't talk about my family. I can't believe you talked about my family. You crossed the line. And that's where Dwayne is. And I think we kind of saw that in that moment of like, he knows there's some truth in what Cody is saying. And rather than like man up to that and admit it, he's like, no, you crossed the line for even mentioning my family. Now I have to take this out on you. I just thought everyone absolutely like performed like just everything about the presentation of this thing. One last thing just to kind of give them massive credit. I love that they made this a special kickoff event. This very easily could have been the main event of Raw this week, but it just kind of speaks to the specialness of having The Rock involved and the new way that TKO is thinking about these things, that more people will know about this and probably watch tonight than if this had just been the main event.
Oh, it's a great point. I checked during the show. I was watching on Peacock, but then I opened the YouTube just to check. And when I checked on YouTube, there was like 200-some thousand watching live, which I know is more than there is, for example, for a kickoff show before a PLE. Even in spite of the fact that tons of people watched on Peacock, there were a ton of people watching on YouTube as well. And obviously Shoemaker, with it being Vegas this week and already media being there and so much attention there. And frankly, a pretty flat Super Bowl week. Like the Super Bowl does not have a good storyline. And this week did for WWE. It kind of works out perfectly. But Shu, where do you think we go from here? What would be your pick? You're smart about these things.
Okay, so it's a great question. The tag team idea of having Seth and Cody team up against Rock and Roman, I think, has some real juice. But I talked about this a little bit on the Masked Man show. There have been a lot of these little pieces floating around, and there was a little. I caught a little whiff about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, that there was talk about a triple threat. Before Cody Rhodes, before The Rock came back, there was a talk of one of the main events being a triple threat. And then you start listening to all these other little pieces floating around. Sean Ross Sapp is reporting, obviously, he and Cody Rhodes communicate, or he communicates with people in Cody's camp, and all of a sudden the stories come out, but the stories are really specific. Cody was promised this match. Cody was promised but he didn't say, and now he won't get it, right? I think that they're going to go for a triple threat. I think it's going to be Rock, Roman, Cody. I think that's the only way through. And they can sow seeds of discontent between The Rock and Roman Reigns if they're more aligned at certain points. I think that's the money match. And I think they got to, at that point, you know, we can talk about Seth. Today I floated maybe they do Seth versus, they do triple threats both nights, and it's Seth, Drew, Sammy on night one or something like that. But then you really got to make us care about Sami Zayn again, which isn't hard, but it's a totally different thing. But I think that that's what they do. Now, what they do in the meantime, I think, is a real question. How many matches we're going to get from The Rock? Because you've got to, it feels like after that showdown tonight, you got to get that tag match on the, you know, on a card somewhere.
But I mean, doesn't that, it doesn't, so does it not scream Perth to you? Because I always thought Perth for The Rock was ridiculous. But now, given where things have gone, it kind of seems like the tag match in Perth would be perfect.
Maybe. I mean, don't you think that, well, I mean, I know these guys fly on super fancy private jets, but I feel like of everything you can ask of The Rock right now, that plane ride to Australia might be the biggest ask of all, you know? Just
well,
like that's a lot.
Here's the thing. Is there a world, is there a world in which it's not that big an ask right now? Because The Rock is motivated by those boos and like the fact that people are doubting him to some extent.
I felt of all of this, with all of these questions swirling, I felt very confident earlier today that we were going to see Cody versus Drew in Perth, because we got that, you got their confrontation on Raw. And I know you're building up Drew for a potential big match, but still, like, that felt like the placeholder because Roman's supposedly not scheduled to work in Perth. I mean, obviously, if it's possible to get those 4 guys to Australia, then that tag match should happen. I mean, that would be the perfect place for it. Or, you know, you can look at what
number on TV. I mean, you
can
also.
Well, no, I was just going to say, or you could. I mean, you could do the triple threat at WrestleMania, and I mean, look what how long they've stretched out the bloodline so far. You could hold off this tag match till SummerSlam. I mean, geez, you could. There's a lot of ways you could do it, but I think strike while the iron's hot. You know, I mean, this is a wild, crazy kind of heat, and this is a, I mean, really, really ballsy move by WWE. If this was the plan from the start, this was a very, very smart and admirable and just crazy decision. You know,
it kind of screams. I mean, listen, I know this guy's not involved in the creative of it all, but it still sort of screams Nick Khan to me, because a business guy who's willing to take shots and also happens to be very close with The Rock. This just feels like something that previously would not have happened. I mean, that was one of the things, like, well, I was complaining earlier in our group chat because our all mutual dear friend Andrew Goldstein was complaining about every detail. Seth didn't look strong enough. Cody's music should have hit. I agree with that, but who cares? All of these things, how can I complain about details when these guys, specifically The Rock and Roman, may be the best example of the WWE refusing to pivot ever? We saw it in 2015. It was a nightmare because they really thought, we don't care. I mean, maybe you could say Undertaker, Brock. Like, there have been a couple that were, or Roman, Brock, I should say. There have been a couple that were really bad. But to me, Brian, this is another example of, like, this is a new leaf. We are going to hear things. And yeah, you don't want to become Tony Khan, all due respect, where every time you read 6 tweets, you completely alter a storyline. But at the same time, you do want to be willing to hear what people are saying. And obviously the noise around the Cody thing was super loud.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, I mean, this is the thing that I feel like as wrestling fans, we've kind of known on a certain level our whole lives. But then, like, we all learned in 2020 that pro wrestling is an art, it is a sport, and it is a competition between those in the ring and those in the stands. And if you don't have the people in the stands, it kind of falls apart. And for many years, WWE was not listening to the fans. At times, it was openly antagonistic to the fans and wanted to prove that it knew better than the fans. WWE is now run by people that want to entertain the audience. They want to listen to the audience. Now, that doesn't just mean that they just follow what the audience wants. They lead them, but they lead them in very specific directions that they know will be satisfying to their audiences. I did find it very interesting how everyone got so up in arms over this whole, like, Cody thing, and we want Cody was trending and everything. It was so obvious from the first moment that this is where they were going. I mean, as soon as a video gets uploaded on YouTube's channel, that's or WWE's YouTube channel, it says crowd chants Rocky sucks. Yeah, they want you to be thinking this. You know, when on the pre-show, all the guys are talking about, like, I don't know, I kind of want this thing to happen. You know, Michael Cole on commentary on Monday was saying, I'd so rather see Cody versus Roman. Back in 2014 with Daniel Bryan, none of this was happening. They weren't uploading.
What were you going to say? You were about to jump in. What were you going to say?
Yeah.
Well, you're right. I mean, but but again, if this is where they were going from the start, there was a lot of really brilliant stuff they snuck in along the way. Like when they uploaded the video of The Rock's return, it got all those downvotes. It was the most disliked video in WWE history. And then they re-uploaded it without Cody's sad face to try to, and obviously to try to get a version of the video that did not lead all history and downvotes. Like that decision, if that was part of the campaign, it's really, really smart. I think they're definitely listening, and they've been adapting along the way, and that is kind of the most interesting thing, right? Because what we always say on the Masked Man show, some people that worked in WWE, I think, told us, is that the sort of credo of the Triple H creative regime seems to be, does it make sense? Is it cool? Then let's do it, right? I mean, there's not a lot of, obviously there's long-term storytelling, whatever, but when it comes to big decisions, you don't overthink it. You're just like, let's just go with it. This is a real like fleet-footed sort of process, and the post-mortem of this is going to be pretty incredible to watch. If it does, if this really was the plan from the start, and right now it really feels like it was. You're right. There have been obvious. In retrospect, like you said, there's a lot of stuff that seems really clear that this is where they were going, right? Even just a waste to spend the time having Seth try to ask Cody Rhodes to be his opponent on Monday Night Raw as a big to make it seem like, because they didn't happen second, that happened first. And so when the stuff happened, when The Rock came back on SmackDown, everybody goes, oh, that's why they did that on Raw, because they're trying to put Cody and Seth together because they're not going to have a place for Cody. Like, the order of storytelling has been really, really smart.
Yeah, I think some of that was, I think there's been little minor pivots and things that have kind of come out of nowhere that have sort of forced them to, change a few directions. I think honestly, I'd say the one major curveball in all of this has been Punk getting injured. And I would say a lot of the Cody maybe facing Punk, this has just been a way of like, okay, let's elevate Seth for a little while. Let's let him rub shoulders with, these three big main eventers up until he has his actual challenger at the Elimination Chamber, rather than just like, oh, sorry, Punk's not around anymore. We're going to give you Drew. Have fun with that. So they want to at least keep him hot up until he can start a proper feud with Drew, whoever he's going to be facing at WrestleMania. But along the way, they use that perfectly to get people really up in arms that, oh my goodness, are you going to take away this thing that we want? And by actually teasing people with what that would look like, it gave some people something to be worried about.
Yes. Yeah, it's absolutely true. In the Masked Man show, we have a theory that Punk is a total conspiracy theory that we don't really believe, that Punk is not actually injured. And because there was no surgery footage until it popped up today, weirdly, after people started asking for it. And then I guess the surgery was a week ago, but the footage came up today, and now he's hosting a panel on there's no question about whether or not this dude can make it. Now, I think he's actually hurt, but if he weren't hurt and they pulled off this Cody, yes movement 2 thing, and at the same time are faking us about the extent of CM Punk's injury, then we're going to have to come up with a new word besides kayfabe, because this whole thing, like this, my head is just going to melt.
No, my head at one point, I was like, if he jumps up on that stage and rips off that arm brace and attacks Seth, that'd be amazing.
Well, this is where all the to me, a lot of the fun debate is going to come, and sort of question marks as time goes on, which is, when did this all come to be? Someone asked me today, who's definitely not a super hardcore fan, who's just like the parent of a child who enjoys it, like, hey, was Punk supposed to win the Rumble? And that's when all this confusion started, and that's why Cody ended up. And I thought, no, that's crazy, and I think that's unlikely. But at the same time, it will be fun to debate when that conversation began. And now, do they involve, when we saw Punk there, when they announced Punk for the kickoff show, disappointed it wasn't me, but I understand going with CM Punk. It's fine. I get it. Punk, that makes me think Punk's going to be around for this cycle.
Yeah.
Like, I think they're going to utilize him.
Yeah, and
he should just work commentary. He should work commentary at WrestleMania. I mean, why not? Just like put him in the booth. I mean, I don't know if he wants to sit out there for that long, but he's a huge asset to the company, and he's clearly very good at doing that stuff. And I think that you've got a huge investment in him. Let's keep. Well,
I thought he would be potentially in my fantasy of this happening. I thought maybe he'd be the friend to Cody, not Seth. And with that, I'll ask you, I guess, Shoemaker, do you think there is concern, or like it's being just us worrying too much, that Seth felt minimized by the whole way today played out?
Well, first of all, I want to go back to something you said before about when did this all start. The ending of the Royal Rumble happened the way it was supposed to happen. And we know this because Roman Reigns was sitting in a skybox waiting for the victor. And CM Punk was not going to turn around and point at Roman Reigns. All of this must have been in play before then. And the fact that they had Cody win and point at Roman Reigns just for that moment to set up the disappointment of him being taken out, like, this is all really, again, goes back to my compliments to the creative team. But as far as Seth goes, I mean, I got to tell you, in the moment, didn't bug me at all. And I think that was because the fight or whatever that was, the whatever it devolved into there at the end of the press conference felt really real. And if you see these things when they happen in boxing or occasionally in MMA or whatever, there's always people standing around looking like they don't know what to do and pointing fingers and talking shit. I mean, that's just kind of how those things work. It looked real. Now, it didn't look like heavily produced like WWE. I do think they have work to do with Seth. You know, I mean, just if his
in terms of getting him to the right place that you need him to be for WrestleMania.
Yeah, or I mean, if WrestleMania were a tag match, like Greg suggested, I mean, if that's the main event of night 2, it's a throwback to WrestleMania 1 2-on-2 match. They have work to do with Seth to get him to get him in that spot. It's not hard. He's got more of a backstory with Roman than The Rock does, despite their shared families. He's got this is going to be for all the marbles, and this is going to really prove that Seth is who he's been saying he is for the past year.
And I guess in terms of that idea of when something started, the all you need to know that the idea was not for Punk to win the Rumble is to think about the fact that they started Punk Seth at Survivor Series.
Yeah.
From the second Punk came back. That was supposed to be the match that they were getting to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And listen, I mean, we all love Seth, but Seth is not at the same level as those 3 other guys and won't be in the same position as those 3 other guys at WrestleMania. It's okay if he doesn't leave that event looking the exact same as those 4 guys. I'm sure if we went back and watched some 2000 Raws, Kurt Angle's probably not being protected the same as, The Rock and Austin and Undertaker. This is just not everyone's going to be protected as the top guy all the time.
But now we have an era of where fans can tweet all the time, and their guy always needs to also be at the same level as all the guys, and that's just not possible.
No, it's true, but I think that one thing you could do, I mean, is just obviously there's going to be some tension between The Rock and Roman Reigns, even if they have some sort of uneasy alliance going forward. And I think you just underscore the tension, the potential. If you create some new tension between Seth and Cody, then that gives Seth a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
That, I mean, just to make it seem like he's more than just the other champion guy who is filling a role in this match. You give him a real reason to be there, and I think they can do it. I'm not concerned about it. Like today when I was talking about, and I mentioned it earlier, if they did a Sammy Drew Seth match for WrestleMania, it's like, well, you got to do a lot of work on Sammy, and Kaz said, well, that's easy. I was like, yes, of course it is. They can do that, right? But like that is objective number 1, is to make us care as much about Sammy as we did a year ago, right? And with Seth, it's easy too. But you really have to commit to it. It's not easy to, like Brian's right. It will not be easy to convince us he's as big a star as these other guys, but that he belongs there, that he's like, a legitimate part of this match. He's not the Brutus the Barber beefcake in whatever like tag team Hogan's putting over, like whatever. Mm-hmm. Like he should be, mostly an equal player.
He's also not as serious a character as the other 3. And that's just what the Seth frickin' Rollins character is. I mean, he's wearing this loud suit. He's like sticking his finger in his mouth when like The Rock's talking. He's just not as serious a character as the other 3.
And also not as defined a character. I mean, that's been my one complaint about Seth over the last year, is that I love Seth. I think he truly is one of the great talents in pro wrestling. This character, though, the criticism that a lot of this character is people singing the song, I think is a valid criticism. I think I don't always understand his motivation. I get the motivation of the other guys who were up there, and I don't fully get the motivation of Seth. So you're right. That is some work that needs to be done. And again, if you're not on that level right now, Seth has had many moments, and he's basically been on top most of the last decade. So I'm not sitting here crying into my pillow. Brian, before I let you go, your pick for what happens WrestleMania weekend right now, 2 months out.
Okay, I'll keep it quick. No, my thing is I think we're going to get 2 Roman matches that weekend. I think night 1 is going to be Cody versus Roman, and night 2 is going to be Rock versus Roman. With the story leading up that Rock and Roman say, hey, we're going to put our differences to the side. We've got a feud that's bigger than you and, this Rhodes son. So night 1, you take care of him. We make sure that belt stays in the family. Night 2, we settle this thing between us. Meanwhile, Cody's telling Roman, do this thing on your own. We know the only reason you beat me last year was because Solo came in. Beat me one-on-one straight up. Prove that you're the head of the table. And if you do beat me, you'll be able to beat The Rock the next day. So Roman, he tells Rock, don't interfere in the match. Match happens. Cody wins because no one comes to Roman's aid. Dwayne comes out. He is pissed. He attacks Roman. Cody saves Roman. They have an uneasy handshake. And Roman turns babyface at the end of night 1. Night 2, Roman kicks Heyman to the curb. Roman comes out to the old Shield music. Suddenly, he is the big concrete babyface that we've been wanting for years. They have the match. And one night after the biggest loss of his career, Roman has the biggest win of his career, beats Dwayne Johnson 1, 2, 3 in the center of the ring. And how does the show end? With Dwayne showing respect, raising Roman's hand, recreating the scene where they were booed 7 years earlier at the Royal Rumble in Philadelphia. But now it's come full circle, and they've been able to do what they wanted to do all those years ago to actually crown Roman as the top babyface. So everyone kind of gets the happy ending that they want. Rock gets to retire, putting over his cousin. Roman is now the big concrete babyface, and Cody has finished his story. So in my dream world, that's how we tie all this up in Philadelphia in about 6 weeks.
Beautifully done. Brian, thank you. That was freaking great. Appreciate
That was amazing, yeah.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Brian Mann. That is Brian Mann. Shoemaker, before we wrap this thing up, first of all, what did you think about Brian's thoughts?
I thought
you can trash him. He's watching backstage. Don't worry about it.
No, I thought it's great. I think that when I said that making The Rock fly to Australia might be the biggest ask possible, I think that there might be one beyond that, which is asking any of these guys. I mean, asking either The Rock or Roman Reigns to work 2 nights. I mean, listen, we're already sold out, right? I mean, we're going to be sold out no matter what happens on these 2. I mean, I don't know what the real advantage. That just feels like one of those things where you do it if you need to sell, fill some seats, or you need to boost the buy rate. I think they're going to be fine. They've already got their money from Peacock and soon to be Netflix rolling in. But I mean, that would be ideal, man. If you actually could pull that off, I think that would be incredible. I just think
what's your prediction?
we always fantasy book somebody working 2 nights of WrestleMania. And I know
ever since there's been 2 nights, that's all we've been fantasy booking.
And I think that somewhere between the improbability of it, just the injury issue, like whatever, like what happens if somebody gets hurt and they can't do it, and blah blah blah, and you're taking a spot away from another wrestler, right? I mean, imagine. I know the plan wasn't for The Rock to work 2 nights, but it's like people already complain about the part-time dudes or the retired dudes coming back and taking the WrestleMania spot. Imagine if one guy took 2 spots.
Well, and especially you're talking about it being a part-timer either way, because basically that's what Roman is at this point as well.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe in either way.
And frankly, that was from the start, my biggest, as of last Friday, my biggest concern about the Rock Roman thing is that the way that they had set it up, if they were going to try to go through with a one-on-one match, and I think that there's a version of that match that really works. But the way they set it up, bringing Cody, having Cody be sort of pushed out and everything else, I thought the best case scenario version of that match was a reverse of Rock Hogan, where like the crowd, where there's a double turn during the match. Rock comes in as the hero, but by the end, the fans are cheering Roman Reigns because he's been with them for a longer time and been entertaining them more recently for so long. But with the Cody stuff floating around, what they were actually verging on having. A Brock Lesnar Goldberg situation where everybody would just boo the whole match, just sort of ironically, even if you were having fun watching it, right? Because you're mad at The Rock for taking Cody's spot, and you're mad at Roman for being a part-timer too, who's just going along with this mess and whatever else. So I think that a triple threat, or maybe, is more likely. It would be great. I'm sure they'll do something to build it up over 2 nights.
Do you think we will see The Rock wrestle a match between now and WrestleMania?
No.
Do you
I'm just going back to likelihood. Who knows? I didn't think he would turn heel. I just thought that I just wasn't ready to. I wasn't willing to believe that he was going to turn heel. You know,
I mean,
but,
do you think we'll see him on TV regularly between now?
I mean, he'll do some stuff. I'm sure he'll be on and off, and I think that'll be good. You don't need to see him every single week. You know, I mean, they could pre-tape promos of him sitting in the boardroom, you know, with his feet up on the table. Like there's so many fun things you can do with The Rock as a heel. So,
and now you realize that the idea. I was thinking about the Rock Hogan thing yesterday. If that match were to happen now, what would the order even be? Like, would it be like they start out booing them both, then they start out cheering one, but then in the end, maybe they do cheer The Rock? Like, it's so hard to know. The feelings are now so complex around both characters, right? Because
you saw it tonight. People booed Cody when he interrupted the whole thing, and then they adjusted and were chanting, "We want Cody," and then people are like booing The Rock and cheering The Rock. Like that. I mean, that to me is what really, and I've said this on my own podcast, but that to me is what was getting lost in the whole "We want Cody" debate that was going on Twitter and everything else. It's that, dude, if they just went back to Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns, there was going to be a huge contingent of people who were pissed off that they thought they were going to get a Rock match, and now they're not. Right? Because, I mean, even though those weren't the loud people on Twitter, there's a ton of people who were like planning on going to WrestleMania. They're like, holy shit, I get to see The Rock in a championship match. This is amazing, you know? And
such a good point.
So, I mean, it's listen, they're walking a fine line. So they either got to give us both matches or a triple threat. I mean, I think the idea of a tag match is, it makes me feel like warm inside because it does throw back to WrestleMania 1 and there's a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah, but it's not. To me, if there's a tag match, and I know you think that it's a lot to ask for Australia, to me, if there's a tag match, it's Australia. That would be it.
Yeah.
By the way, how do you like that I got my call time for the kickoff show for Australia? It is 1:30 a.m. live at 4.
But are you recording here?
It's because it's here.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Kickoff show at 4, meaning show starts at 5. So that's the hard part is like, are you using The Rock on a match that's going to air? Even though I know it doesn't matter because it's a streaming era, it is still weird that it'll be like 7:45 a.m. on a Saturday.
Yeah.
As The Rock comes out to the ring is a sort of bizarre thing to think about. But I think if there's a tag match, it's Perth. To me, that's the only thing that makes sense to me if they were to do that.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. And I still think that regardless, if they did a tag match, then what would be, I mean, I guess you could do Becky Lynch, Rhea Ripley as the night 1 main event. I mean, it'd be hard to figure out what the,
Well, here's the question. If they were to do the tag match, what's the result of the tag match that makes sense leading into what then WrestleMania is? Is it the baby faces go over?
Oh, if they did it in Perth, you mean?
Yes. Like, what's the result of that? Because you have Seth as a champion and Cody as a challenger, right? They both have different needs in theory. Maybe Seth says he wants The Rock. I didn't know if they were maybe trying to work an angle to get Seth involved. And then Cody says, if we win, I get Roman and Seth gets Rock. And then we get those 2 matches at WrestleMania. By the way, you said a way to make Seth look important at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
One-on-one with The Rock would be elevating.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, that's exactly why I was going to say what I was going to say, which is if they did the tag match in Perth, then Seth would get the pin and Rock and Roman would come to blows afterwards. And we would, make our way still to the triple threat. Seth would go on to do something else, I guess, but he would get the rub of having just pinned The Rock or Roman Reigns or whoever. But it's hard to imagine either of those guys taking a pin prior to WrestleMania. So who knows?
Or at WrestleMania, some would say. All right, Shu, thanks for jumping on.
That's a good question. If we do a triple threat, last thing, if there is a triple threat at WrestleMania, Rocky, Roman, and Cody,
who takes the pin?
Presumably Cody's going over. So who takes the pin?
So don't you think? I mean, it would make more sense for it to be, well, both make sense, right? Because like him beating Roman is like the thing. Although I don't really think it's the thing. I think winning that title is the thing. So maybe you protect Roman slightly and he pins The Rock. What does it matter if The Rock takes a pin at 50 years old to prime Cody Rhodes?
Well, if it was anybody but The Rock, you'd say yes. But I guess this is the Rock. The Rock that we saw tonight is a Rock who probably seems to be willing to take the pin. Regardless of what happens, it's going to be Cody going over and The Rock shaking his hand afterwards and like rock bottoming Roman Reigns or something. The Rock's got to get that big baby face pop at the end of the night, don't you think?
Rock, can you do us a favor though? Wait a minimum of 24 hours before posting a video of you rolling up on one of those tourist buses that's going to be near your house and you like surprising everyone and making all the kids smile. I need 24 hours of bad guy Rock to just be out there. Please.
Oh, if he could just go full-time heel, like social media heel.
Well, no, and imagine if he did the late night shows. Like, imagine if he was just like, screw it, I'm going for it. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Like, Moana 2's on the way. I'm good. Let me just do whatever the hell I want right now.
Dude, if he went on the Tonight Show or whatever and just was a dick, that would just be the greatest thing ever. That would just be
so fun.
Think about the iconic Tonight Show. What?
Let's not get greedy. Tonight was pretty great.
Tonight was really great. Tonight was really good. I mean, listen, the post PLE, press conferences they've done have been really smart. Some of the the other backstage stuff that people have talked about and pregame stuff, that walk and talk interview that you did at the last show. There's been a lot of cool little subtle changes. And this
was a new one.
And this is some of that's just production, but to at every step along the way to consider how can we use this same thing in a creative function, right? How can we turn this on its head to make our product, to do the thing that only we can do, only pro wrestling can pull this off. That's really smart, man. I mean, this is why we love this stuff. Why we as grown men who talk about this stuff too much for a living. This is why we love this stuff.
Right, exactly. We who talk about it nonstop for a living are also talking about it right now on a weeknight. I skipped my therapy call. Like it was an emergency. I was like, I can't do therapy tonight. There's something important happening. All right, thanks, Shu. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right, man. Thank you.
There he is, the great David Shoemaker from the Masked Man Show on the Ringer Wrestling Show is where you can find both the Masked Man Show and, of course, Cheap Heat. If you are watching right now on YouTube, hit subscribe, hit like, all those things help. I'm going to get all my old back in the day wrestling with Rosenberg YouTube videos up on this channel as well. But I just want to jump on here tonight so we could talk about it. And yeah, thanks so much for hanging out, guys. This has been a lot of fun. Let me get to a couple comments before we roll. Let's see. Jeffrey says tonight was fun. You're correct about that, sir. Blue Gold says if they smart, they can tell this story for a year. Yeah, dude. If Rock feels like doing it. Yeah, that's right, Mac. Shout out to Wednesday Worldwide also, of course, on the Ringer Wrestling Show. King says, Pete, does this count as an emergency podcast? Yes, it does. It counts as an emergency podcast. I took advantage of Sam Roberts having a baby tonight and not being able to do an emergency podcast. Cornell Bryant, full-time corporate / Hollywood Rock till the Roman match at 41. Oh, it'd be so good. Let's not. We're getting greedy. I only want a three-way, Kyle says, if it's an elimination style match. All right, let's not get so specific. I'm good with whatever version we end up doing. If Cody wins the title, he must pin the champion. Well, that's not generally how that works. In a triple threat. Any pin scored, right? Blue Gold said fatal four-way at WrestleMania. I doubt we get that. Mr. All Days Off, am I the only one who doesn't want a tag match? LOL, Seth isn't involved as much, No, listen, I'm not like obsessed with getting a tag match. I just think it's an option that clearly is sitting there. You know what I mean? To all of my Cheap Heat listeners, I hope you guys enjoyed this quick emergency pod reaction show. Thought it would be fun to get the emotion of doing it live. If you're watching us live, make sure you hit subscribe and like, and go subscribe to the Cheap Heat podcast, which is the Ringer Wrestling Show, wherever you find podcasts. If you're looking for the best wrestling content on the web, from myself, from David Shoemaker, the aforementioned, from Kaz, my boy Kaz Fumiide, Stack Guy Greg Dipperstein, Wednesday Worldwide. It's all on the Ringer Wrestling Show, wherever you find podcasts. Monday, you get Masked Man Show. Tuesday, you get my show, Cheap Heat. Wednesday, you get Wednesday Worldwide. Thursday, another Masked Man Show. And Friday, another Cheap Heat show. We bring it every single day of the week, wherever you find podcasts, the Ringer Wrestling Show. Thanks, guys, for watching. And happy Mania season. This is fun.